The small research vessel trembled as another explosion lit up the darkness of space. Dr. Natalie Reed gripped her console, eyes wide with horror as she watched the Altarian passenger ship break apart on her view screen. The ship had been filled with refugees, families trying to escape the invasion of their homeworld. "Are you recording this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her colleague, Paul Wilson, nodded grimly. "Every second. The Galactic Council needs to see what's happening here." Their research station, hidden in the asteroid belt of the Altair system, had been monitoring planetary development patterns when the Vesperian warships arrived 3 days ago. What started as a border dispute had quickly escalated into something far worse. "That's the 4th civilian ship they've destroyed," Paul said, running a hand through his graying hair. "They're not taking prisoners." Natalie swallowed hard. "Send everything to Earth. Now." Admiral Carol Summers stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the recording for the 3rd time. The Vesperian cruiser was clearly visible, its distinctive wing-like appendages glowing with energy before it fired on the unarmed passenger vessel. Around her, the other members of Earth's United Defense Force Command sat in stunned silence. "They're systematically exterminating them," General Ben Hayes said after the recording ended. "This isn't war, it's genocide." Admiral Summers nodded. "And the Galactic Council?" Lisa Garcia, fleet commander for the Outer Colonies, pulled up another screen. "They've classified it as a regional conflict and invoked the non-intervention protocols." "Of course they have," Summers muttered. Earth had only gained membership to the galactic community 43 years ago. In that time, humans had learned that the grand ideals of interspecies cooperation had significant limitations. The older species, those who had been spacefaring for thousands of years, maintained a system where they could do almost anything to younger, less advanced species without consequence. "Get me Ambassador Daniels," Summers ordered. "I want to know exactly what the Council is saying, not just the official statement." Ambassador Alan Daniels felt distinctly uncomfortable in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council. Despite representing a planet of 8 billion people, humans were still considered newcomers, primitives who had barely managed to develop faster than light travel. "The Council has made its decision," said Zorlath, the Parnassian representative who had served as chief counselor for over a century. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of dismissal in his species. "The Vesperian-Altarian conflict is a local matter. I have evidence that the Vesperians are targeting civilian populations," Daniel said, his voice steady despite his rising anger. "They've destroyed refugee ships. Under Section 87 of the Charter, that qualifies as—" "We are aware of Earth's perspective," interrupted Tralmogan, the Vesperian representative. His scaled skin flushed a deep orange. "Perhaps if humans spent more time studying galactic history and less time interfering in matters beyond their understanding, you would recognize the complexities at play." Daniels felt his face grow hot. "There's nothing complex about murdering children." A low murmur swept through the chamber. The Lorian representative, a being made mostly of crystalline structures that shifted and chimed when they moved, leaned forward. "Ambassador Daniels, Earth has been part of the galactic community for less than half a century. The Vesperian Confederacy and the Altarian Republic have been engaged in territorial disputes for over 800 years. That doesn't justify—" "The Council has spoken," Zorlath said, striking a small chime that indicated the matter was closed. "No species will intervene, not the Council and certainly not Earth." President Maya Collins studied the faces of her Security Council. Through the windows of the Oval Office, the Washington Monument stood bright in the afternoon sun, a reminder of how far humanity had come and how far they still had to go. "They won't help," Ambassador Daniels said, his holographic image flickering slightly from the Council station millions of miles away. "They've invoked non-intervention protocols." "Even with the evidence?" asked Defense Secretary Richard Powell, his dark eyes narrowing. "They don't dispute the evidence," Daniels replied. "They simply don't care. The Vesperians have 3 seats on the Council. The Altarians have none." President Collins sighed, running her fingers over the smooth surface of her desk. And our options? Admiral Summers spoke up from where she stood near the window. The Jupiter fleet is ready. We can have ships in the Altair system within 36 hours. A heavy silence fell over the room. What Summers was suggesting would violate multiple treaties Earth had signed upon joining the galactic community. The consequences? Collins asked. Trade sanctions at minimum, Daniels answered. Possibly expulsion from the Council and revocation of our travel rights through controlled sectors of space. And if we do nothing? Collins asked, though she already knew the answer. Secretary Powell pulled up a projection showing the latest data from the Altair system. Based on current patterns, the Vesperians will have control of the entire planet within 2 weeks. Their approach so far suggests they won't accept surrender. Conservative estimates put potential Altarian casualties at 4 billion. Collins stood and walked to the window, her reflection grim against the glass. My grandfather used to tell me stories about Earth's Second World War. He had a photo from when the concentration camps were liberated. He kept it to remind himself what happens when good people look away from evil. She turned back to the room. Humans promised never again. After that war, we failed to keep that promise many times on our own planet, but we're not confined to one world anymore. Madam President, Powell said carefully, if we do this, we're announcing ourselves to the galaxy in a way that can't be taken back. Collins nodded. Maybe it's time they learned who we really are. She took a deep breath. Admiral Summers, deploy the fleet. Full combat protocol. Ambassador Daniels, remain at your post but prepare for rapid evacuation if necessary. As the meeting broke up, Collins called Summers back. Carol, make sure everyone understands our objective. We're there to protect civilians, not punish the Vesperians. We show restraint wherever possible. And if they don't? Summers asked. Collins' expression hardened. Then we show them exactly why Earth was worth inviting into their precious council. Behind the massive bulk of Jupiter, hidden from conventional sensors by the gas giant's intense magnetic field, 37 ships of Earth's defensive fleet prepared for departure. Lieutenant Joe Martinez stood at the viewport of the heavy cruiser Defiance, watching as smaller craft docked with the larger vessels. On paper, these ships were listed as science vessels, planetary surveyors, and trading ships. In reality, they represented the most advanced military technology humanity had ever created. Lieutenant, a voice called from behind him. The Admiral wants all squad leaders in briefing room 3. Martinez nodded to the young ensign. On my way. As he walked through the corridors of the Defiance, Marines and crew members prepared for what might come. Some checked equipment. Others studied tactical displays showing Vesperian ship configurations. In the briefing room, Admiral Summers stood before a group of officers, her silver hair pulled back tightly, her uniform impeccable. We launch in 6 hours, she said without preamble. This mission has full authorization from the President, but I want everyone to understand what we're doing. The Galactic Council has forbidden intervention. We are deliberately violating that order. She activated a holographic display showing the Altair system. Our priority is protecting civilian populations. We'll establish a perimeter around remaining Altarian cities and refugee gathering points. Engineers and medical teams will deploy once areas are secured. Her eyes swept the room. Make no mistake, this action will change Earth's relationship with the galactic community forever. But sometimes standing up for what's right means standing alone. Martinez felt a surge of pride. This was why he had joined the service, not to conquer or dominate, but to protect. One last thing, Summers said. The Vesperians believe they're dealing with a primitive species that barely understands space travel. Let's show them how wrong they are. The massive engines of Earth's warfleet hummed to life, their blue glow illuminating the darkness around Jupiter. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Summers watched as her tactical display showed all 37 ships reporting ready status. Begin. Jump sequence, she ordered. Staggered formation, stealth systems active upon arrival. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Diane Kelly, looked up from her station. Admiral, We're receiving a transmission from Galileo Station. It's a Galactic Council representative requesting permission to dock. Summers frowned. They know we're here. Shall I deny the request? The Admiral considered her options. No. Delay them. Tell them we're experiencing technical difficulties with our docking systems. That should buy us at least an hour. She turned to her second-in-command, Captain Greg Butler. Get the fleet moving, I'll deal with our unexpected guest. In the belly of the Defiance, Lieutenant Joe Martinez supervised as his Marines loaded into dropships. Each soldier carried gear that represented the best of Earth's military technology. Adaptive armor that could withstand both energy and projectile. Weapons, neural-linked targeting systems, and emergency medical implants. First time facing non-human hostiles? Asked Sergeant Olivia Reyes, noticing Martinez checking his equipment for the third time. Martinez nodded. Trained for it plenty, but simulation isn't reality. They bleed different colors, but they die just the same when they're shooting at your people, Reyes said matter-of-factly. She had seen combat during the Titan colony uprising 5 years ago. Just remember the mission. We're there for the civilians. Marines, called out Captain Lynn Bradley, striding into the bay. Final briefing in 5 minutes. The Vesperians don't know we're coming, and we aim to keep that advantage as long as possible. Martinez took a deep breath. In just a few hours, they would make history. The first human military force to engage an alien species in combat. In her private quarters, Intelligence Officer Samantha Wright reviewed the latest data on Vesperian military capabilities. The holographic display showed their ships, weapons, and known tactical patterns. Computer, highlight Vesperian shield vulnerabilities, she said. The display zoomed in on a Vesperian cruiser, showing energy flow patterns around its hull. Their shields are optimized against energy weapons, Wright muttered to herself. Like most advanced species, they've moved away from projectile technology. She smiled slightly. Earth had developed along a different path, while human ships carried powerful energy weapons. They had never abandoned the basic concept of throw something very hard, very fast. The railguns mounted on Earth vessels could accelerate projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. And Vesperian shields weren't designed to stop physical objects moving that quickly. Her door chimed. Enter, she called. Chief Engineer Kevin Russell stepped in, carrying a data pad. I've got the final modifications to the stealth system, he said, his Australian accent more pronounced when he was excited. We've managed to improve the energy masking by another 18%. Wright nodded appreciatively. The Vesperians won't know what hit them. That's not all, Russell added. The system doesn't just hide our energy signatures, it can project false ones. We can make our frigates look like cargo ships or make the Defiance disappear completely from sensors. Have you tested it against Galactic Council scanning technology? Russell grinned. 3 times in the past month. They've had ships right next to our science vessels and never realized what they were looking at. Wright's terminal beeped with an incoming message. It's from the Admiral. We have a council representative arriving soon. Looks like we're about to find out if our diplomatic smokescreens work as well as our technical ones. Jixelor, representative of the Galactic Council, stepped onto the Defiance with an air of suspicion. The tall insectoid being's compound eyes reflected the lights of the docking bay as Admiral Summers greeted him. This is unexpected, Representative, Summers said politely. We weren't informed of any scheduled inspections. This is not an inspection, Admiral, Jixelor replied, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into smooth English. The Council has noted unusual activity in your outer system. A large number of vessels appear to be gathering. Summers maintained a neutral expression. Yes, we're conducting fleet exercises, testing new navigation and communication systems. Indeed. Jixelor's antennae twitched. And the nature of these exercises requires 37 ships? We have a large system to protect, Representative. Jupiter alone has 4 mining colonies, not to mention the research stations around Saturn and Uranus. The alien's compound eyes fixed on her. The Council is aware of recent transmissions from the Altair system to Earth. We are also aware of your government's displeasure with the Council's decision regarding the Vesperian-Altarian conflict. Summers met his gaze steadily. Earth respects the Council's authority, Representative, but we maintain our own defensive capabilities, as is our right under the Charter. Of course, Jigzellor said, his tone making it clear he didn't believe her. Perhaps I might tour your vessel? I've heard the Defiance is the most advanced ship in your fleet. I'd be happy to show you around, Summers replied. Though I should mention we're scheduled to begin our exercises in just a few hours. I wouldn't want you to be inconvenienced by having to remain aboard during maneuvers. As she led the representative through carefully selected areas of the ship, Summers received a silent message on her neural link from Captain Butler. Fleet jump preparations complete. Awaiting your return to begin countdown. On Altair Prime, Dr. Eric Barnes crouched in the ruins of what had once been a hospital. Around him, Altarian children huddled with their parents, their four-armed bodies trembling with each distant explosion. The building is stable for now, he told his assistant, Nurse Laura Hill, but we need to move these people before nightfall. The Altarians had welcomed human researchers and medical teams 5 years ago, eager to learn from the newcomers to the Galactic stage. Now those same humans were all that stood between the civilians and the Vesperian invasion force. The last transport is full, Hill replied, wiping sweat and dust from her face. We've got nearly 300 people here, and the next ship won't arrive until morning, if it comes at all. Barnes looked at his communicator. No messages from Earth in over 12 hours. The last transmission had been cryptic. Hold position. Assistance pending. Outside, the sky rumbled as Vesperian ships moved into position above the capital city. This was their pattern. Surround population centers, cut off escape routes, then begin systematic bombardment. We're out of time, Barnes said, making a decision. Get everyone to the underground shelter, we'll have to wait it out there. As night fell, Barnes stood at the entrance to the shelter, watching the horizon glow with fires from the burning city. He pulled out his emergency transmitter, a direct link to Earth that bypassed conventional communication channels. This is Dr. Eric Barnes on Altair Prime, he said, his voice tight with urgency. Vesperian forces surrounding the last standing city, civilian casualties massive. Refugee routes cut off. He paused, swallowing hard. For God's sake, if you're coming, come now. The transmission sent, he turned back to the shelter where hundreds of frightened eyes watched him. He didn't know if help was coming. He didn't know if Earth would risk war with the Vesperians to save people who weren't even human. All he could do was wait and hope that humanity would remember its promise. Never again. Commander Drekthul of the Vesperian attack fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Righteous Claw. His scaled skin gleamed under the blue lights as he studied the tactical display showing Altair Prime. The last city still stands, he said, his voice a low growl. How disappointing. His second-in-command, Subcommander Vex, bowed slightly. The Altarians have hidden many of their people underground. Our bombers are having difficulty reaching them. Then we will simply have to dig deeper, Drekthul replied. Prepare the orbital cannons. We will reduce their city to ash and then send in ground forces to hunt the survivors. Yes, Commander. Vex turned to relay the orders but paused. Sir, sensors are detecting some strange readings at the edge of the system. Drekthul waved a clawed hand dismissively. Debris from their destroyed ships, nothing more. It appears to be. Moving, sir. Probably a malfunction. The radiation from this star interferes with our sensors. Drekthul's patience was wearing thin. Focus on the bombardment. I want it to begin in 1 hour. Admiral Summers stood on the bridge of the Defiance as the Earth fleet arrived at the edge of the Altair system. The jump had been perfectly executed, all 37 ships emerging from hyperspace within seconds of each other, stealth systems immediately active. Status report, she ordered. All ships present and accounted for, Captain Butler replied. Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels. The Vesperians haven't detected us. Lieutenant Kelly looked up from her communication station. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's Dr. Barnes. Summers nodded. Put it through. The desperate voice of Dr. Barnes filled the bridge. For God's sake, if you're coming, come now. Summers' jaw tightened. Send a tight beam response. Tell him to hold position and prepare for evacuation." She turned to the tactical display, where Intelligence Officer Wright was analyzing the Vesperian fleet positions. "They're setting up for an orbital bombardment," Wright reported. 32 ships in high orbit, with another 18 providing perimeter security. "More than we expected," Summers noted, "but not more than we can handle," Butler added confidently. Summers studied the display for a moment longer. "We need to move quickly. They're about to begin their attack." She straightened her uniform. "Battle stations. All ships prepare to disengage stealth systems on my mark." Throughout the fleet, alarms sounded as crews rushed to their positions. On the Defiance, Lieutenant Martinez and his Marines checked their weapons one last time, preparing to board the dropships that would take them to the surface. "Chief Russell," Summers called over the ship's comm, "are the targeting systems locked on the Vesperian fleet?" In the engineering section, Kevin Russell confirmed, "All targets acquired, Admiral. On your command, we can hit all of their primary ships simultaneously." Summers took a deep breath. This moment would change the course of human history, the first time Earth openly defied the Galactic Council, the first time humans engaged an alien species in combat. All ships disengage stealth systems. Now. On the bridge of the Righteous Claw, alarms suddenly blared to life. "Commander!" Vex shouted, his eyes wide with shock. "Multiple ships have appeared. They're everywhere." Drakthul spun to face the tactical display, not believing what he was seeing. Where moments ago there had been empty space, now 37 warships hung in perfect formation. "Impossible," he whispered. Then louder, "Identify them." "Configuration unknown, sir," his sensor officer replied. "Wait, we're receiving a transmission." Admiral Summers' voice filled the Vesperian bridge, translated automatically into their language. "This is Admiral Carol Summers of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your actions constitute genocide under interstellar law. Stand down immediately or be engaged." Drakthul's shock gave way to laughter. "Earth? The primitives?" He turned to his communications officer. "Tell them to remove themselves from this system immediately, or they will be destroyed along with the Altarians." "Sir?" Vex said cautiously. "Perhaps we should consider." "Consider what?" Drakthul snapped. "They have barely mastered space travel. Their weapons are primitive, their shields are weak." He gestured toward the display. "Continue with the bombardment. Send a destroyer squadron to deal with this." Annoyance. On the Galactic Council observation platform, representatives from 23 species gathered around a large holographic display showing the Altair system. What had begun as a routine monitoring of the regional conflict had suddenly become the most watched event in Council space. "Those are Earth ships," the Parnassian representative Zorlath said, his voice hushed. Where did they come from?" "More importantly," added the Lorian representative, "how did they hide from our sensors? We have been monitoring that system continuously." "This is outrageous," the Vesperian representative Tral Mogan shouted. "The humans have violated non-intervention protocols. They must be sanctioned immediately." The representatives fell silent as a group of Vesperian destroyers moved to intercept the Earth fleet. "Vesperian destroyers on approach," Wright reported on the Defiance. "They're powering up weapons." "They've made their choice," Summers said grimly. "All ships, weapons free, primary targets only." The space around the Earth fleet lit up as rail, guns activated, launching hypervelocity projectiles toward the Vesperian ships. The Vesperians, expecting energy weapons, had their shields configured accordingly. The projectiles tore through their defenses as though they weren't there. 3 Vesperian destroyers erupted in flames as the railgun rounds punched through their hulls, hitting critical systems. The others quickly adjusted their shields, but the damage was done. The element of surprise had worked perfectly. "Marine dropships, launch now," Summers ordered. "Get to the surface and establish defensive positions around the civilian shelters." Lieutenant Martinez felt the sudden acceleration as his dropship launched from the Defiance. Through the viewport, he could see the battle unfolding above. Earth ships moving with precision, their point defense systems intercepting Vesperian missiles while returning fire with devastating accuracy. "This is really happening," Sergeant Reyes said beside him. her expression a mixture of awe and determination. "We trained for this," Martinez reminded his squad. "Remember the mission. Protect the civilians. Let the fleet handle the Vesperians in orbit." Their dropship, along with dozens of others, streaked toward the surface of Altair Prime. Commander Drakthul stared in disbelief as the tactical display showed 3 of his destroyers destroyed and 4 more heavily damaged. The Earth fleet was moving with a coordination he had never seen before, their ship seeming to anticipate Vesperian tactics before they executed them. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They're using projectile weapons." "Sir," Vex reported, his voice shaking, "their projectiles are accelerated to near light speed. Our shields are designed for energy weapons, not physical impacts at that velocity. Adjust the shields. Launch all fighters." But even as he gave the order, Drakthul saw more of his ships taking hits. The humans were targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. And now, small craft were breaking through his defensive line, heading for the surface. "They're landing troops," he realized. "They mean to save the Altarians." For the first time, Commander Drakthul felt something he had never expected to feel in this campaign: doubt. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives from dozens of species argued loudly as they watched the battle unfold on the massive display at the center of the room. "This is an outrage," shouted the Vesperian representative, Tral Mogan. His orange scales had darkened to a deep red in his anger. "Earth must be punished for this violation. Perhaps we should discuss why your fleet is exterminating civilians first," countered Ambassador Alan Daniels. The human stood calmly amidst the uproar, his hands clasped behind his back. The chief counselor, Zorlath, struck his ceremonial staff against the floor 3 times. "Order! We will have order!" The chamber gradually quieted. Zorlath fixed his 6 eyes on Daniels. "Ambassador, your planet has directly violated the non-intervention protocols. How do you explain this action?" Daniels stepped forward. "My government believes that the prevention of genocide outweighs political protocols." "That was not your decision to make," Zorlath replied sternly. "No," Daniels agreed. "It was yours, and you chose to do nothing." A murmur ran through the chamber. The Centauri representative, a tall being with crystalline skin that caught the light as she moved, rose from her seat. "The human speaks truth. We have hidden behind these protocols too long while stronger species prey on the weak." "You forget." "Your place, Centauri," growled Tral Mogan. "No," she replied. "I remember it, as do the humans." She turned to her aides and spoke quietly. When she faced the council again, her voice was firm. "The Centauri Collective is dispatching ships to support the Earth fleet. We have an ancient defense pact with the Altarians that we should have honored long ago." The chamber exploded into noise once more. In the confusion, 2 more representatives, the Rigelian and Procyon delegates, announced they too would send ships to aid the humans. Daniels caught Zorlath's gaze. "Humanity remembers our own history," he said, his voice somehow carrying over the tumult. "We have seen what happens when good people do nothing in the face of atrocity. We made a promise after our last global war: never again. Not on our world, and not on any world where we can make a difference." On the surface of Altair Prime, Lieutenant Joe Martinez led his Marines through the ruins of what had once been a beautiful city. The Altarians moved on 4 limbs, their bodies low to the ground, but their buildings had soared upward, with graceful spires that reached toward the sky. Now most of those spires lay broken, and fires burned across the urban landscape. "According to Dr. Barnes, the main civilian shelter is half a kilometer ahead," Martinez told his squad. "Stay alert. Vesperian ground forces have been spotted in this sector." They moved carefully through the rubble, their adaptive armor changing color to match their surroundings. Above them, the battle in orbit continued, flashes of light occasionally visible through the clouds. "Contact front," called Sergeant Reyes suddenly. A group of Vesperian soldiers appeared from behind a collapsed building. They were reptilian in appearance, moving with quick, jerking motions, their weapons already raised. "Take cover," Martinez ordered. The Marines dove behind rubble as energy beams cut through the air where they had been standing. Martinez activated his neural-linked targeting system, which highlighted the Vesperians even through the dust and smoke. "Return fire non-lethal if possible," he commanded. "Remember, we're here to protect, not escalate." The Marines fired their weapons, set to stun mode. The Vesperians, clearly not expecting resistance, fell back in confusion as two of their number collapsed. "Advance," Martinez ordered, and his squad pushed forward. Dr. Eric Barnes couldn't believe his eyes when the first human Marines arrived at the entrance to the underground shelter. He had been preparing the Altarians for the worst, expecting the Vesperian forces to break through at any moment. "Dr. Barnes?" asked a female Marine with sergeant stripes. "I'm Sergeant Olivia Reyes, Earth Defense Force. We're here to secure this position." "Thank God," Barnes breathed. "We have over 300 civilians in here, mostly families with children." Reyes nodded. "Lieutenant Martinez is clearing a path to the evacuation point. More forces are landing as we speak." Barnes looked at the Marines in wonder. They seemed so calm, so professional, as if rescuing aliens from genocide was something they did every day. Did they know what would happen?" he asked quietly. "When they sent you?" Reyes checked her weapon before replying. "They knew there would be consequences, yes, but they also knew what was right." More Marines arrived, setting up defensive positions around the shelter entrance. Medical teams followed, bringing supplies for the injured Altarians. "Dr. Barnes," called one of his assistants from inside the shelter. "You need to see this." Barnes hurried inside to find the Altarians gathered around their communication device. On the screen was a live broadcast from the Galactic Council. "3. More species have joined the humans in defending us," said one of the Altarian elders, his voice thick with emotion. "The Centauri, the Regelians, the Procyon, they are all sending ships." Barnes watched the screen, where Ambassador Daniels stood firm before the council. The human's words rang out clearly. "Never again. Not on our world and not on any world where we can make a difference." In orbit, Admiral Summers received the news of the additional Allied forces with a mixture of relief and surprise. "It seems we're not standing alone after all," Captain Butler remarked. "No," Summers agreed, "but we were willing to." She turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Kelly, open a channel to the Vesperian flagship." On the main screen, Commander Drakthul's scaled face appeared, his expression one of barely contained fury. "This is Admiral Summers. Your position is untenable, Commander. You now face not only Earth's fleet but reinforcements from 3 other species. I offer you the chance to withdraw your forces without further bloodshed," Drakthul hissed. "You think this changes anything, human? The Council will punish all of you for this interference." "Perhaps," Summers acknowledged. "But the Altarians will still be alive." The Vesperian commander stared at her for a long moment. "You are making a grave mistake. The galaxy operates by certain rules." "Yes," Summers interrupted. "It does. And one of those rules, on our world at least, is that the strong protect the weak. You might want to remember that going forward." She turned to Intelligence Officer. "Right. What's the status of the Vesperian fleet?" 8 ships destroyed, 17 damaged, Wright reported. "They're regrouping at the edge of the system, but their formation is breaking down." "And our Marines on the surface?" "Securing civilian areas and establishing evacuation routes. Lieutenant Martinez reports the first shelter is under our protection." Summers nodded, allowing herself a small smile. "Keep the pressure on the Vesperian fleet. I want those civilians off-planet as soon as possible." Commander Drakthul slammed his fist on the command console after the transmission ended. His fleet was in disarray, and now more ships were arriving, all because of the humans and their primitive notions of justice. "Sir," Sub-Commander Vec said carefully, "perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal. Regroup with the main fleet and return with greater numbers," Drakthul snarled. "Retreat? Before these newcomers?" "Sir, our orders were to secure the Altarian territories with minimal losses. The situation has changed significantly." Drakthul knew Vex was right. but the thought of retreat burned like acid in his throat. His gaze fell on the tactical display where the Earth vessels continued their precise, coordinated attacks. How had they hidden such military capabilities? How had the mighty Vesperian Confederacy been caught so unprepared? "Prepare a final strike," he ordered suddenly. "Target the main Altarian city. If we cannot have their world, no one will." Vex looked alarmed. "Sir, that would kill millions." "Do it," Drakthul roared. "Before we withdraw, let the humans and their allies witness the price of their interference." Intelligence Officer Samantha Wright frowned at her display screen. "Admiral, I'm detecting power surges in the Vesperian command ship. They're charging their main weapon systems." Admiral Summers studied the tactical display. "They're repositioning for a clear shot at the capital city. Even with our ships in orbit, that weapon could devastate the entire region," Captain Butler warned. "Millions of civilians are still down there." Summers' expression hardened. "Notify all ships. The Vesperian command vessel is now our primary target. Concentrate fire and take down their shields." As the Earth fleet adjusted their formation, Lieutenant Kelly reported, "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Chief Engineer Russell. Put him through." Russell's voice came over the comm system. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the Vesperian command ship. Their main weapon draws power directly from their engine core. If we can disrupt that connection, we can prevent them from firing without destroying the entire ship." "Can we target something that specific from orbit?" Summers asked. "No," Russell replied. "It would have to be done from inside." A brief silence fell over the bridge. Then Summers asked, "Are you suggesting what I think you are, Chief?" "A boarding operation," Russell confirmed. "A small team could infiltrate the command ship, locate the power junction, and disable it." Summers considered the risk. "Who would lead this mission?" "I'll need to be there to identify the right systems," Russell said, "and we'll need a security team." Butler spoke up. "Lieutenant Martinez and his squad are among our best, and they're trained for shipboarding operations." Summers nodded. "Make it happen. And Russell, this is a disable mission only. Get in, shut down their weapon, get out. Clear?" "Crystal clear, Admiral." On the surface of Altair Prime, Lieutenant Joe Martinez received his new orders with surprise. "They want us to board the Vesperian command ship?" Sergeant Reyes asked, her eyes wide. "That's the mission," Martinez confirmed. "A strike team to prevent them from firing on the city." His squad had just finished securing the evacuation route for the last group of civilians from the shelter. Around them, other Marine units were taking up defensive positions as Altarians streamed toward the waiting transport ships. "Who's on the team?" asked Corporal Finn Miller, checking his weapon. "You, me, Reyes, Peterson, and Zhang," Martinez replied. "Plus Chief Engineer Russell to handle the technical side." He looked at each of them. "This is volunteer only. The risk level is extreme." Without hesitation, all 4 Marines stepped forward. Martinez nodded, feeling a surge of pride. "Gear up. Transport leaves in 10 minutes. Chief Engineer Kevin Russell waited in the shuttle bay as Martinez's team arrived. He had modified their adaptive armor to better shield against Vesperian internal security systems. "The plan is simple," he explained, showing them a holographic model of the Vesperian ship. "We dock at this maintenance port. Their shields are weakest here due to the need for heat dissipation. We cut through, make our way to this junction, and I disable the power flow to their main weapon." "And the escape plan?" Reyes asked. "Same way we came in," Russell replied. "If that's blocked, there are 2 alternative routes to their shuttle bays." Martinez studied the model. "How much time do we have before they fire?" Based on their power buildup, less than 30 minutes. The team boarded their specially modified shuttle, a sleek craft designed for stealth approaches. As they launched from the Defiance, Martinez watched through the viewport as the Earth fleet engaged the Vesperian ships, drawing their attention, away from the tiny shuttle slipping through the chaos of battle. Commander Drakthul watched with growing rage as the Earth ships hammered at his fleet's defenses. Several more of his vessels had been destroyed or disabled, yet the humans kept coming. "Main cannon at 70% charge," reported his weapons officer. "Good," Drakthul growled. "Once we fire, begin withdrawal procedures." Sub-Commander, Vex approached cautiously. Sir, 3 Centauri warships have just arrived in the system. Rigelian and Procyon vessels are not far behind. Drakthul hissed in frustration. What had begun as a simple conquest was now becoming a major galactic incident, but he would have his revenge before retreating. Continue charging the main cannon, he ordered. Nothing will stop us from delivering this final blow. The boarding shuttle approached the Vesperian command ship from below, using the massive vessel's own heat signature to mask their approach. Russell guided them toward a maintenance hatch near the engine section. Docking in 3, 2, 1. He counted down as the shuttle's magnetic clamps engaged with the Vesperian hull. Martinez and his team moved quickly, using a plasma cutter to create an entry point. The cut metal pulled away silently in the vacuum of space, and one by one, they entered the Vesperian ship. Once inside, they sealed the breach behind them and repressurized their immediate area. Their adaptive armor adjusted to the higher temperature and different atmospheric composition favored by the reptilian Vesperians. This way, Russell whispered, though there was no need. They were communicating via their neural links which couldn't be overheard. They moved through dimly lit corridors, avoiding Vesperian crew members. Their armor changed color to match the metallic walls of the ship, making them nearly invisible in the low light. Power junction should be 1 level down, Russell informed them as they reached an access shaft. Just as they were about to descend, a door slid open, and 3 Vesperian security officers emerged. There was a moment of shocked stillness before both sides reacted. Martinez moved first, firing his weapon on stun setting. 1 Vesperian dropped immediately, but the others ducked back through the doorway, shouting alerts. Our cover's blown, Martinez said. Move fast. They descended the access shaft as alarms began to sound throughout the ship. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Summers received the update. Our boarding team has been detected, but they're still moving toward the target. The tactical display showed the Vesperian command ship's main weapon continuing to power up. They had minutes at most before it would fire. Keep the pressure on their shields, Summers ordered. Give our team every second we can. Inside the Vesperian ship, Martinez and his squad fought their way through increasing resistance. Corporal Peterson took a hit to his leg but continued moving. They reached the massive chamber housing the power junction between the engine core and the weapon systems. There it is, Russell said, pointing to a glowing conduit junction. Cover me. As the Marines formed a defensive perimeter, Russell worked quickly to override the system. Vesperian security forces converged on their position from multiple corridors. Whatever you're doing, do it faster, Reyes called, returning fire as energy. Bolts struck around them. Almost there, Russell replied, his fingers flying over the alien controls. The system is more complex than I expected. I need to create a feedback loop that will— Just shut it down, Martinez shouted as more Vesperians appeared. Russell made a final adjustment. Done. Throughout the ship, lights flickered as power surged and then failed in the weapon systems. On the bridge, Commander Drakthul roared in fury as his displays went dark. What happened? He demanded. Power failure in the main cannon, his engineer replied, frantically checking systems. It appears to be sabotage. Drakthul slammed his fist on his command chair. Intruders, find them! The Earth team fought their way back toward their shuttle, facing heavier resistance with each step. Zhang took a hit that penetrated his armor, and Miller had to help him walk. We're not going to make it to the shuttle, Martinez realized as they found their route blocked by a full squad of Vesperian security. Russell pointed to a side corridor. Shuttle bay. We can steal one of theirs. They changed direction, fighting through lighter resistance until they reached a small bay with several Vesperian shuttles. Can you fly one of these? Martinez asked Russell. The engineer grinned. I've been studying their technology for years. Just watch me. They boarded the alien craft and Russell quickly figured out the controls. As the bay doors opened, they shot out into space, immediately taking fire from the Vesperian ship's defensive systems. Admiral, Martinez called over the comm. Mission accomplished. We're in a stolen Vesperian shuttle. Request immediate recovery. Well done, Lieutenant, came Summers' reply. Return to the Defiance at once. As they flew toward the Earth fleet, Martinez looked back at the Vesperian command ship. Without its main weapon and facing forces from 4 species, its threat was neutralized. The Vesperian fleet began to retreat, jumping to hyperspace in groups as they recognized their defeat. The battle for Altair Prime was over. On the surface, Altarian civilians emerged from shelters to see Earth ships in their skies and human marines protecting their cities. For the first time in weeks, they dared to hope. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Daniels received the news of the Vesperian retreat with quiet satisfaction. The political battles would come next, but for now, a genocide had been prevented. And throughout the galaxy, a message spread. Earth had arrived on the galactic stage, bringing with them an ancient promise: never again.